high quality and economical. As far as construction, we had made some mistakes, but we seem to be like what we would make in other places as well. So, of course, the other parts of our support was our customers and the community in general. People have been very kind to us and they helped us in many, many different ways. And I can sit over here and tell you how many acts of kindness we've seen from the Saudi friends of ours. So here is our plant in Jubail. It's about, I think about 15,000 square meters at the roof. And we have been expanding capability to reach about 150 kiloton per year capacity of various products. So, as far as enablers for the downstream industry profitability, going to the next step, of course we invest now, we have to make money. In a way, we're pioneers over here. Yes, there is other industry, but we're pioneers and we open the way for other people. I think it's very important to attract the right players here. It has to be very, very critical analysis of who comes into Saudi Arabia has to be profitable. They have to make money. That's it. The judgment of success is profitability. We have to apply the right discipline in the market. We have to invest to make money. We have to be very serious about this. We cannot overinvest. And the profit is the key criterion of success. And we should not plan to subsidize companies. Personally, I'm very much against subsidizing. If something is not making money, somebody has to consider what has to happen. It's very important for us to get into the buy Saudi or buy KSA mode. We have the buy USA, we have to buy KSA, buy Saudi materials. We need to increase the confidence of our customers, the quality of our products, which are of international standard. The products we make in this plant, they're as good as better as we make anywhere in the world. We need to standardize our products and we need to qualify with our customers. And to some degree, we have to close some dumping loopholes and predatory pricing from foreign companies that can cause, havoc in the local operators. And it's good business in the long term to do business with our neighbors. And buy Saudi is like investing in the country for us and for our children. In the future, we've seen a lot of drive from large companies to invest in the downstream industry, and that's a good plan. They have to act as a primer, but these investments of large companies in the downstream industry, and I'm talking downstream in to be eventually transferred to entrepreneurs of Saudi Arabia. I do not believe personally that a large company can run effectively small companies. I've seen this experience with Union Carbide. I've seen this with Exxon. Exxon, 30 years ago, they bought, Reliance Motors. They bought, word processing companies making rope. All of these things were divested, and the people who bought them, they made money when Exxon could not make money. We need to create a big entrepreneurial environment in the country. We have seen a lot of young people with great ideas in this country. About 3 weeks ago, we were in the Kaust University. We met a young engineer, a student there, with great ideas about reverse osmosis and for more effective desalination of water. And these people have to be given the means and the resources and the money to be successful. We've seen, I know, we have quite a few friends who are experienced people who work for SABIC or other companies. They're close to retirement, and those people who should be available to give the entrepreneurial drive with their experience to the overall industry. So we need to create a favorable financing environment to permit entrepreneurs to start and be successful. For us, if we did not have the Royal Bank of Canada to finance us in this crazy investment, and we did not have Exxon to give us business, this company would not have existed. We're very much aware of the efforts that put in the country to train people. We know that of the technical colleges, the 100,000 Saudis that are in training in USA, we plan to get some of them in internship in our Houston plant. And we're looking forward for this supply of young kids that will create momentum and capacity in the human resources here. So we live in very exciting times. The country has shown extraordinary success in developing its natural resources by the primary oil extraction and petrochemical industries. Now it's time to develop our human resources, create sustainable high-value economies. To be successful here, we have to make long-term commitments. There are no fly-by-night investments with immediate returns in Saudi Arabia. If somebody comes here to make quickly money, it's not a Klondike, it's not a gold rush in California. Somebody has to be serious here, has to commit, and has to spend time to understand the culture, to understand the business environment, to be part of the community. And Ingenia and I were very privileged to be part of this historic opportunity for the next 30 years. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, John, for that presentation on your experiences with Ingenia Polymers in investing and setting up a business with the Royal Commission in Saudi Arabia. It's great to hear such positive experience, and the fact that you looked at so many locations and chose, I think your words were decided by a very high margin to go with the Royal Commission in Jubail and Yanbu. Very enlightening words, so thank you for that. Now, unfortunately, because of time constraints, we're in the last session of the day, and a lot of people have to get transport links. I have to be quite tight on time for this session, so we don't have time for questions with John just now, but he's said that he's happy to take questions. If anyone wants to email him, we can arrange through myself or through the organisers of this event, and we can get questions to John and he can follow up. So thank you very much for that presentation, and I apologise that we don't have time for questions. We're now going to go into the final panel session of the Saudi Downstream Forum. As I mentioned in the previous session, the theme of this next stint is Saudi Arabia's competitiveness in the global manufacturing marketplace, market growth and market demand. And so we have a large panel of speakers that I would like to welcome to the stage. So I will read out your names. If you could make your way to the stage. Please could Ryan Kutub, the Chief Operating Officer and Head of Industrial Valley at King Abdullah Economic City, could you please join me on stage? Simon Holmes, the Senior Advisor. Thank you. Simon Holmes, the Senior Advisor of Saudi Arabia Elastomer's Downstream Industry Development from ExxonMobil. Please welcome Simon. Graham Hoare, who we had in the last presentation, is going to rejoin us for this panel. He's Vice President, Middle East of Nexant Limited. Welcome back, Graham. Thank you. Daniel Starter, who is Managing Director and Partner at A.T. Kearney Limited, the Management Consultant. Daniel, thank you. And last but not least, Professor Dominic Tildesley, who is the President of the Royal Society of Chemistry. Please welcome Dominic to the stage. Thank you. Welcome, gentlemen, to the final panel of Saudi Downstream. We're looking at Saudi Arabia competitiveness in the global context. I wonder, to give us all a market context for the discussion, perhaps I could turn to you, Graham. Can you give us some facts and figures about Saudi Arabia's position in the global market? Do you have data to hand?
Not here to present, but broadly, as I'm sure everybody here knows, Saudi Arabia is extremely competitive on delivered cost basis for a range of gas-based petrochemicals, making polyethylene, ethylene glycol, methanol, ammonia, extremely competitive at 75% gas feedstock. as we touched on this morning, with less gas available for new allocations for new projects, the Kingdom has moved to looking at alternative feedstocks and liquid-based crackers, reformers, and fundamentally the cost of naphtha is pretty much the same the world over. So straight away you lose that feedstock advantage. The economics of that sort of project is the same, very similar, if you do it in Shanghai or Singapore or Rotterdam or Houston or Saudi Arabia. So the competitive advantage is more second-order benefits, as again I touched on this morning. Cost of utilities are very competitive here by global standards. There's good financing, there's a good tax, low-cost tax regime. But they're not that big, they're that big.
Okay.
On certain feedstocks like LPG, there's an advantaged cost position here. One interesting development in recent years has been the impact of shale gas in North America on US propane prices, which surprised many observers when they actually fell below the discounted price in Saudi Arabia. So US in the last couple of years has benefited from propane prices lower cost than even in Saudi Arabia, where there had previously been much lower cost than anywhere else in the world. But broadly speaking, the petrochemicals produced here are competitive. The challenge as we move downstream is about, once you move downstream, you're starting from a product that has a global value. And therefore you haven't got that big feedstock advantage. You have to look for other advantages, and we've talked about meeting the Saudi Arabian market demand and GCC market demand, and being customer focused and developing a market-facing organisation, differentiated products, this kind of thing.
Okay, thank you. So that gives us a sense of the some of the strengths and perhaps weaknesses. Daniel, perhaps if I could move to you again. I've started with the two consultants in the panel to give us a big picture. So Graham set out some of the fundamentals, if you like, of Saudi's competitive position. What do you think are the strategies or the approaches that Saudi Arabia should be doing? What are the best ways forward?
You know, as we think about the competitive position of Saudi Arabia, you have to look at its global competitive position within the downstream capabilities. I've done quite a bit of work globally on economic development and within the petrochemical sector. So as I think about some of the places I worked, we've done work for Silicon Valley Joint Venture, looking at the next wave there of what takes high tech. I've done work in Korea, I've done work in Asia, and looking at some of those parallels. And I think the thing that has occurred in all those is many of those have occurred over the course of multiple decades. It's not something that happens with the flick of a switch. You can't necessarily predefine it. In going after the current economic advantages that Saudi Arabia has within oil and gas and petrochemicals, those were commodity, and to a large extent commodities produced with known prices, and it's a matter of getting the product to market. The next stage is much more difficult. So it gets back into that consumer facing, and I think the further you take that downstream, the better you are in thinking about it. If you take, a comparison to some of those other examples of companies or countries that have taken this, if you take, if you had to take a look today and say, who are the successful clusters that have developed? If you take automotive and you said, high quality car for the everyman, people would start to say Japan and come up with that very quickly. If you said top engineered vehicles, Germany. And part of that gets to a couple things. One is building out those clusters with the capabilities, and I think there's been a lot of emphasis, whether it's the individual companies with their investment in innovation, whether it's the government setting it up, whether it's the funding. So there's a lot of natural attractiveness that occurs with Saudi Arabia. But the one thing is, if you go to all those clusters, the question is what's the brand they're trying to build, or what brand have they built, and that will attract that next generation coming in, along with the education systems. So it was encouraging to see a lot of the youngsters here walking around earlier, and that generation will be the generation. But I think one of the key pieces is what is the brand that will define Saudi Arabia. So when somebody, if you put a stamp on something that said, this product is made in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, what would cause people to buy that? What would that attribute be? So if you go to the high-tech world, it's Silicon Valley. If you go to automotives, there's a couple brand stamps there, and that attracts. What is the attractor that will bring people to Saudi Arabia? And I would argue that it needs to take that next step of what are those capabilities that bring, whether it be innovation, whether it be world-class talent, labs, funding, or that entire cluster to bring that together. But I think that's one of the key components, is thinking through that next step. Because what customers buy and how people think about it, it's not just, you can't just say, let's put the company in place. What you have to look at is, what does the ultimate end customer buy?
Okay, so brand values, that's a very interesting topic. I will come on to Simon and Ryan in a moment. Now, you are both involved in actual projects that are attracting investment or making investment. So I want to, I'll come to you two at the end. If I can go to Professor Tildesley. So we've heard about the wider context, the market. Daniel set out what he thinks is one of the key strategies, building a brand. Coming from the Royal Society for Chemistry, you might have a slightly different take on the key challenges or strategies going forward. I wonder if you could set out some thoughts.
I'd like to begin by just saying a few words about the Royal Society of Chemistry. Why is the Royal Society of Chemistry at a Downstream Saudi meeting? It's an ancient organisation. We were founded in 1841 in the UK, but we are now an international organisation. We have over 49,000 members around the world. We work in 141 different countries. We have a network of over 300,000 experts in all aspects of chemistry, from solar chemistry to petroleum formulation through to the tribology of petroleum fluids. So we are very well connected. We are a not-for-profit organisation. That doesn't mean to say we're not for action. So in the last 8 years, we've spent over 400 million on our mission, 400 million US, on our mission of driving excellence in the chemical sciences. And over the next 4 years, we will spend exactly the same. So what do we spend that money on? What do we do? Well, I think there are 3 reasons why the society should be of interest in the kingdom. And those are that we are an absolute expert at the handling and publication of data. Not just the kind of data which is required for stuffy academic journals, but the kind of data that you need really to run good industry, good books. Not just the kind of data that you see in print, but the data that you can really interact with. So we are about providing tools in order to help people to make their growth faster and quicker in any kind of environment. That's number 1. Number 2, we are about training. So whether it be technicians or young PhD students just starting in a management career, or people in mid-career making a change, the Society offers real support in training and development. It gives people's careers a structure which they can use as they move forward.
Can I just interact? So training and education is one of the sort of key issues in the kingdom and in the region. At the moment, does the Royal Society of Chemistry, do you have a chapter out here that offers training programs?
We certainly have a base now in the Middle East, and we are very happy to engage and offer training programs. We have really good training programs going at the moment in the pharmaceutical sector in India. We have very good training programs going in Brazil, in natural products and those kind of areas. It would be great for us to be developing new training programs for the kingdom.
And do you have visibility of the training and professional development that happens in the kingdom at the moment? I don't know much about this area, but do people tend to go overseas for their degrees and their...
Well, in the past they would have done, but I mean, on the way up here, we popped into Caus. What a wonderful facility. Absolutely brilliant. And, you know, it would be great to be able to work with an organisation like that to provide validation and support for the training that they will be doing for young people from Saudi Arabia.
Okay.
Can I just say one other thing, though?
Yeah.
For me, one of the most interesting opportunities is in open innovation. Because of this ability to network with experts, we can put companies in touch with those who really want to work with academic universities, not just here in the Kingdom, but in Cambridge and Oxford, Karlsruhe, the École Normale in Paris, American universities where we have good contacts. But probably more importantly, with small to medium enterprises around the world who are chemists who have something that they can really offer the Kingdom. So those are the three areas. It's training, it's open innovation, and it's knowledge and data.
Okay, thank you very much. Very important points. And actually, Timon from SABIC talked about their home of innovation in the last session, so possibly there's an opportunity to collaborate there. Now, if I can move on to Ryan and Simon. So you guys are involved in two massive developments, if I can classify them as single developments. But Ryan, you are the Chief Operating Officer and Head of Industrial Valley at King Abdullah Economic City. Now, this is something a bit different to what the Royal Commission do. To me, it looks a bit more like the special economic zones that we learned about last night. Could you perhaps give a few comments on what new elements the King Abdullah Economic City brings to Saudi Arabia's competitiveness?
Thank you. I think I just want to take this opportunity to thank His Highness Prince Saud and our dear colleague, Dr. Ala, His Excellency Dr. Ala, for his kind invitation. I think we definitely look up to the experience of the Royal Commission in Jubail and Yanbu, and we look forward in King Abdullah Economic City to learn from them and to start from where they have ended. There is a short presentation, if time permits, at the end to share with you more about King Abdullah Economic City as a massive concept. But just to highlight some of the key competitiveness components we see in King Abdullah Economic City. I think definitely the fact that a lot of international and national investors are looking for or at different economic zones, either regionally or globally. And the fact that we have this special economic zone in Saudi Arabia would give us, let's say, a platform to compete. Yesterday we've seen some examples regionally, and I think it would be good to have another option in Saudi Arabia that will complement the current offerings in Saudi Arabia and take it to the next level. I think the other part is that there is a capacity issue, especially when we talk about the ports capacity. Today Saudi Arabia is an underserved market in terms of ports capacity. The capacity of Jeddah port is around 5 million TEUs. The capacity of Jebel Ali port is around 13 million TEUs, growing to 19 million TEUs. Salalah, 5 million TEUs. 70% of what goes to Jebel Ali and Salalah comes back to Saudi through road. And again, the port opened this year, alhamdulillah, after long years of waiting. And the tailwind that is coming with that is just enormous. And we were pleased as well that a lot of petrochemical companies are looking at us for export. And that is improving their efficiency and speed. Petrolabic, for example, is already exporting from King Abdullah Port, and that is reducing their lead times. I think the other factor as well is the fact that we are a private model gives us sometimes a bit of flexibility and speed in terms of developing new options or offerings. So in the Industrial Valley, we've realized that there is a demand not only for land for lease, but land for sale. And we introduced that product. The reaction from both multinational and national companies was massive. We're offering more options in the area of logistics, in the area of bonded zones, re-export zones, a technology park. So I think, again, giving the investor who's interested to look at Saudi Arabia more offerings and a fresh, new greenfield infrastructure, I think, is something interesting. I think one of the challenges always in Saudi Arabia is the dealing with multiple government entities. So I think one of the key propositions we have was the royal decree by His Majesty of creating the Economic Cities Authority, which is one single authority that is regulating and enforcing in coordination definitely with other government entities and government initiatives, which is very important as well. Last, I think, but not least, is the lifestyle component. I think the first questions that people are asking us, a lot of the investors and tenants who are coming to CAIG after looking at the economics of the business is, okay, what about my house? What about the master planned community, either national or international? What about the schools? What about healthcare? So again, we are offering a differentiated offering. We opened our first international school run by the largest private operator in the world. It has been a big success. Even Petrol Rabigh kids are coming from Rabigh, and healthcare offerings are there. There is existing 1,000 houses, 5,000 more houses are now being constructed, and 15,000 houses are being in the pipeline of design. So I think, again, we're learning as we're going. We're a young project, but again, I think the keys to success is to listen and to respond and continue walking.
Okay, thank you. So one of the issues we've heard about being a challenge out here is the logistics. So you're saying that King Abdullah Economic City addresses that. There's the port, the railway link, housing for workers, that was mentioned this morning. So you have housing as part of the programme. And the other question that Daniel mentioned about branding, I just wonder, why are people choosing? So I've seen your presentation or some of your slides, and you have some big brands. One of them I mentioned earlier, Pfizer, big American pharmaceuticals company. So they are one of your tenants. What made them come to King Abdullah Economic City? Was it Saudi Arabia they were targeting? Was it the King Abdullah Economic City brand?
I think it's clear that from what Engineer Khalid was talking about yesterday, that 80% of pharmaceuticals that are consumed in Saudi Arabia come abroad. So definitely a lot of companies would look at locating in Saudi Arabia to have more supply chain savings. Now, as an efficient port, I think definitely that is one of the drivers for them to relocate to Saudi. So access to market, efficiency of operation, the support of the Economic Cities Authority, and definitely we would like to work more with the ICDP in terms of sharpening our saw and the proposition in the pharmaceutical areas to attract Julfar, some of their distributors, Tamar and Naghi as well. So we look forward as well to bring more and to sharpen what we can offer to compete on a regional and global level in this area.
Okay, thank you. Now, just to let you know, we're going to do, or Ryan is going to do a presentation at the end of this panel discussion on King Abdullah Economic City. He's quite keen to sort of, because it's a whole city we're talking about, there's quite a lot of detail in it to explain. I would be interested to hear any questions from the floor, because in my mind we have, for investors, we have a number of options. We have the Royal Commission, we have King Abdullah Economic City, we have Modan. I'd be interested to hear some of the conversations about the differences between them if there are questions out there. So thank you for that. Simon, if I can move to you now. You're a senior advisor on Saudi Arabia Elastomer's downstream industry, and you're working on, from Exxon. Exxon is part of a $3.4 billion elastomer plant project. Perhaps you could tell us a little bit about that project, just an update on it. But also, what do you think are the sort of the key success factors for that project when you made the investment decision? What are the factors that drove that decision?
Sure. Thanks, Richard. So first of all, as you said,
yeah, I think your microphone might not be on.
Hello. Okay. Yeah. So thanks, Richard. First of all, ExxonMobil, together with its partner SABIC, is now midway through the construction of a $3.4 billion elastomer complex over at its existing site of Kimia in Jubail. This is the first time the Kingdom will have access to rubber materials, and they are building blocks. When we make a rubber part, it's not just the polymer, it's a recipe. A number of things go together to make a successful rubber part. So we will be bringing the first building block. They will be used in cars and trucks, the construction industry, seals, hoses, belts, and also in industrial machine parts. As a potential downstream investor, question number one is, do I have access to a quality raw material locally available? Yes. That's the first big question now that the rubber industry can answer for the first time. But in addition to that, there are other things that the rubber industry wants before it's going to come to Saudi Arabia. And ExxonMobil and SABIC are working to bring in those other pieces of the jigsaw too. Specifically in 3 areas we've got actions underway. The first is that we've sponsored HIEI. This is an elastomer's training institute here in Yanbu, working with the TVTC. We're going to take young Saudis and we're going to train them to be rubber technologists. And this is a really sophisticated training course to an internationally accredited standard. It's going to take 2.5 years to get people comfortable and credible in rubber technologies. And when a rubber company comes across, it may be an SME, it may be a global company, they may want to employ 50 to 100 people. The first question is, can you find me supervisors with up to 5 years of shop floor experience? Can you find me rubber technologists who know what they're doing? So we're having to address those to make sure that these pieces are in place for when the investments come.
And where would you find that? So we have the Royal Society of Chemistry at one end of the panel. Would you go international to find that?
Yes, we partnered with the University of Akron for that, and there were a dozen or so Saudi trainers who went over to Ohio for 18 months to 2 years, got trained up there. They're now back here and they're running the courses under the continued guidance of Akron University. So yeah, absolutely making sure that we bring the world's best into play.
And is that's those people on those courses are employees of the elastomers plant or complex, or are they?
No, these are Saudi students who believe that there's going to be an opportunity in the rubber industry, if you like. They are sponsored by industry. So SABIC is sponsoring some of the first people in. But as the rubber companies start to come, then they will obviously start to bring their own people through that training. But we're creating the first pool, if you like, of students for that. Yeah, the second part, beyond that labour, skilled labour, specific skilled labour, is application development. And this is the investment that's taking place in the SABIC Technical Centre in Riyadh that's been discussed earlier. We put in there, rubber processing equipment and compound development equipment so that SMEs, Saudi SMEs, can go there and enhance their current operations and, more importantly, start to develop applications to meet future needs. And the third leg, which is probably the most challenging, is knowledge. A lot of people in Saudi Arabia will say, this should be a good opportunity. Rubber's everywhere. Tell me something about it. It's extremely fragmented. There's over $1 billion rial of rubber parts imported to Saudi Arabia today, but you can't find them. It's not in one big block. It's fragmented. And the value chains to access them is really complex. So that's something we're working to provide the advice to Saudi industrialists on how you would go about entering into this market. Is it about brand? Is it about technology? Is it about price? And ultimately, it's about technology and being able to meet your customers' needs. Rubber parts are engineered to the local customer's needs. It's not just about raw material. They're not commodities. They're high-value specialist parts. And just to close, the final part is obviously the international investors. They are customers of ExxonMobil and SABIC around the world today, and they have confidence in us, and our partnerships with them is to be able to educate them, bring them up to speed with what is happening in the Middle East, and most particularly the opportunity to manufacture and put their next factory in Saudi Arabia. So I think we're trying to put all those pieces together in order to support that.
So I guess I'm probably missing the point here, but if you're looking at a place to invest and you see a country that has lots of the ticks in lots of the boxes, but it misses the knowledge tick because there's no indigenous industry, I guess that's a big disincentive to investors. So I guess government backing must have been quite an important factor in going ahead with this investment as well, for SABIC or Riyadh to say we want to develop this industry, or did all the other components sort of drive the investment decision, and then you fill in the knowledge gap later?
I think it is a combination of that. So let's just talk a little bit about SABIC and ExxonMobil. You know, we are global companies. We have application development centers, networks of them around the world. Having a strong network or application center here in the Middle East is obviously necessary as a global player to support the Middle East. That's a business, that's a commercial decision, if you wish, to support our customers and help them add value. If our customers are successful, we're successful. So I think that piece is relatively straightforward in putting that together. But it is new to the region, and this is where we come back and say industrialists today wishing to set up, you know, a rubber business here are a little bit handicapped. They haven't had access to local technology. They haven't had access to competitively priced, high-quality raw materials.
You mentioned sort of networks and knowledge sharing. I know that Professor Tilsley, you mentioned earlier the importance of knowledge transfer, and I think you said 30,000 members worldwide, was it?
300,000.
Sorry, 300,000. Well, that's a pretty big knowledge network. How many Saudi Arabians do you have in your membership, and how much do you facilitate that sort of knowledge sharing? And
well, the honest answer is not enough. Okay, so I was looking at these figures just before.
Can you pull your microphone towards you?
The honest answer is, as far as Saudi Arabian membership is concerned, not enough. So we probably have 20, 30 members right across Saudi Arabia. And in that network, I wouldn't have counted too many from Saudi Arabia at the moment. But I met young scientists yesterday at KAUS who I really would like to bring into the Royal Society of Chemistry network and would encourage very strong connections. Plus, we've had the opportunity, due to the kind invitation we had to join you here in Yanbu, we've had the opportunity to talk to a lot of people over the last 2 days about some of those opportunities for improving their kind of their knowledge channels.
Okay, thank you. Now, if I can come back, Daniel, to you. Simon has encapsulated some very important elements of being competitive. As a consultant with A.T. Kearney, what would your advice be? What are the policies and factors needed to be put in place, or to make Saudi more competitiveness in attracting downstream investment?
Yeah, as you look at the way the kingdom has developed, I think a lot of the policies have been addressed over time. Whether it's kind of trade laws, it's intellectual property protection, it's ease of doing business. There's been a lot of progress that has been made. There's still, of course, room to grow on that. One of the things I would like to look at is when, as people make decisions, where are the barriers at to entering it? And I think from a policy standpoint, most of those barriers are pretty low at this point from a kingdom perspective. I think, as I said, there's been a lot to address that. It was interesting in listening to the elastomers case. I used to do a fair amount of work in elastomers myself. And part of that is it gets into that, what really attracts people to do that. One of the clients I worked with was a competitor in the elastomer space, but they had products that they were manufacturing, and they looked at them and said, where are we getting the value out of our products, and started to rationalize their product line. One of the products they actually went to get rid of out of their product line, they got a call from the military one day and said, no, you can't get rid of that seal because it's high temperature, high pressure, high quality that doesn't erode over time, and we need that. I think building those types I think the bigger issue is on the customer side and understanding what those customer needs are and what they attract them. Earlier somebody mentioned the automotive industry in South Africa. The reason the automotive industry is in South Africa isn't because because of South Africa, it's because of Africa as a whole. And it's understanding what do they need. And as you pull them in, they bring the other components of producers in behind them. I think having companies like ExxonMobil and SABIC come in with an elastomers piece, it's understanding the other components of that value chain, which I think is even more critical at this point, and making sure that those components are there, building off of those, but ultimately understanding where their market is. So understanding almost that customer's customer. And I think that's more of a critical piece. And the question becomes can you coordinate that, or do you build the capabilities to do that? I think there's a bit of a mix of both that says what's the centralized role of whether it's economic cities, or others, or corporate entities, and how do you get to that attractiveness piece that says this is a good place to locate?
So you identifying the customers obviously is a key part of that process. From your perspective, who are the customers? Are there particular customers that Saudi Arabia should be targeting? Is it China manufacturers, or is it domestic retail products? Who?
Yeah, I mean, as you look at the sectors that have been identified, and I think most of them are the right ones. Where if you look at automotive, construction, medical products, things like that, going after existing value chains is very difficult. Right, so what you have to do is look at ways that you can either become a more value-added part of an existing value chain or go after the new ones. And I think Saudi Arabia is very well positioned to go after a lot of the new value chains, whether it's advanced construction products, new medical products, or within the automotive, as you start to see transition to more plastic components, more aluminum components, those sorts of things. So I think there's advantages to build clusters around those parts from a customer standpoint.
Excuse me, sorry.
Sorry.
If I could take the same question to Graham, what do you think should be the top three, say, policies to drive competitiveness for Saudi Arabia in the downstream sector? What advantages to build on, or what roadblocks are in place that need to be removed?
Okay, so policies, again, can you hear me? Policies again implies a supply push from the government downwards, and that is undoubtedly required and has been there. And as I mentioned earlier, the Ministry of Petroleum has been very effective at its criteria for feedstock allocation in identifying industries that are new to Saudi Arabia, or Saudi Arabia needs to back out imports. So there is that supply push, but I think increasingly what we're talking about is the market pull, and that's not something a policy can enforce. That's something the market has to create. So we've heard a lot of good things about the organisations that are around to foster the environment under which the demand will be created. But it's about getting out there and grabbing the opportunity. We've talked about the new successful companies will be market and customer focused, slightly different thinking in as you move down the value chain of working very, very closely with your customer. So the supplier customer partnership is not this month you've got the better end of the negotiation on the price. No, we're in this for the long haul. I think as Simon just said, successful. I want you to be successful. That's enlightened thinking, and that's the way forward, I think.
And Daniel mentioned about the importance of brand. In your view, does Saudi Arabia Petrochemicals have a global brand association? I mean, obviously, SABIC will. Generically, is there a Saudi brand for petrochemicals?
Well, branding the formation of SABIC and branding a number of joint ventures that were there to start with. And interestingly, in Qatar right now, very recently, which is a means of branding the Qatar petrochemical industry, bringing together the various joint ventures that are in Qatar under one brand. So that there's a recognition that it's undoubtedly brings value to a chemical company, the value of the brand. And I think that's something that the SABIC has clearly been very successful at globally. Arabian chemical companies also moving to enhance.
Simon, if I can just, I want to end the panel with Ryan, who's going to do a presentation. So just to finish off on this sort of the group discussion. For Saudi elastomers, are you that will be developed downstream of your complex, or you're selling to the end user? How do you develop your business?
Yeah, it's a mixture. The rubber industry is naturally clustered. You have a mixing company that will supply a number of small moulders, so there are small clusters like that. But ultimately, they're going to go where their customers are. So, the Yanbu, the auto tier 1, tier 2 suppliers will naturally locate. Manufacturers or door seal manufacturers will also naturally gravitate here. So as we talk now ahead of that to the people who are going into the industrial section and the construction sector, we're basically saying today, maybe you would go over to Dammam, but there's more of an industrial base. But your future 10 years from now is probably over on the Yanbu side with automotive. So in your thinking, you need to be thinking about putting that cluster in there. Mold makers, mixers, and I think then once they're there, their natural customers, the SMEs, will gravitate around them. So yes, there is but it's a natural clustering rather than a forced cluster.
Okay. Okay, now I'm about to wrap up the discussion element of this panel. Are there any questions from the floor around competitiveness and Saudi Arabia's competitiveness? Okay, I'll wrap up the session there. Now, if I could ask you gentlemen to remain on the stage whilst Ryan does his presentation. This will take about 10 minutes, and then we'll do the closing ceremony. So, Ryan, if you'd like to...
Are we fine on time?
Sorry?
Are we fine with time?
Yes, we're okay with time. Oh, sorry, have we... I apologise, we're actually out of time. I'm very sorry about that. Okay, just give me 1 second. Okay, sorry about the confusion, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to wrap up the session there. We will now do the certificates, participation certificates. If I could ask John Lefos to rejoin us on the stage, who gave the keynote presentation just before this panel. Thank you very much. And I would like to invite Dr. Ala Nassif, again, Executive President of Yanbu for the Royal Commission of Jubail and Yanbu, to join us on the stage. He will be making the presentations. Thank you very much. If you want to. Okay, so the first certificate is to John Lefos, who gave the keynote presentation this afternoon. He's the founder and CEO of Ingenia Polymers Company Limited. Thank you, John. I would next like to invite Ryan Kutub, Chief Operating Officer and Head of Industrial Valley at King Abdullah Economic City, to receive her certificate. Thank you. Simon Holmes, Senior Advisor of Saudi Arabia Elastomer's Downstream Industry Development at ExxonMobil. And finally, next, Daniel Starta, Managing Director and Partner at AT Kearney Limited. Thank you, Daniel. And finally, Professor Dominic Tildesley, who is President of the Royal Society of Chemistry. Thank you very much. That brings to an end the session. Thank you again to all of our speakers. Contribution for Saudi Downstream Forum. I have to just say on a personal note, I've thoroughly enjoyed the last 1.5 days. It's been hard work, a lot of content to get through, but extremely productive and informative. On behalf of myself and on behalf of Mead, thank you to the Royal Commission, to the organisers and to all of you for allowing me to be part of this wonderful gathering. And I wish you all every success as Saudi Arabia develops its downstream sector. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Richard. Thank you, the speakers. I'd like to invite His Excellency Dr. Ala Nasif for Jubail and Yanbu for the closing remarks.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Your Highness, honorable guests, and our partners, our colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, and I would like to sincerely thank you for coming and attending this third Saudi Downstream Forum. It has been highly productive for 2 days. During the past 2 days, many of our partners have spoken about many of our major success and challenges too. I want to emphasize and highlight to everyone present here that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is in one of the driving seats for making a positive economic impact locally and internationally. We have seen that the development of the downstream manufacturing sector is the key pillar of Saudi Arabia's industrialization program. We have several major international companies doing business in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, which is helping develop the economy locally and internationally. Our determination to move aggressively into diversification of business, especially in manufacturing. And it has a strong foundation, and many of our partners are ready to join this journey. Our strategic location provides a mutually beneficial business scenario to everyone all over the world. Kingdom of Saudi Arabia encourages development in all sectors, including industrial, urban, social, health, education, technology, and environmental issues. It will drive growth, create jobs for young Saudis, and it will also empower the kingdom to move away from being a provider of basic commodity chemicals only to providing high-value specialty products to key new markets. With a wealth of investments opportunities to offer, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, including Royal Commission cities, is spearheading economic development of the region by giving positive competitive challenges. We are now entering a new phase in the kingdom's downstream development. We have laid the foundation for the new wave of development of diversification and downstream of industries. I would like to invite you all and the new partners to ride this new wave with us. This thinking must include greater coordination and integration of Saudi Arabia's industrial sector, including legislation, regulation, and infrastructure investments in the new product development. It also requires investment in people, in training and education of young Saudis. This will not be easy, and we know that this is a big challenge we have to face. And there are many challenges, such as growing global competition, technology, and others. But Saudi Arabia is well placed to address those challenges, and everyone here at Saudi Downstream Forum has a role to play. In the end, I would like to thank you all, and I would like to thank everyone participated in this forum. Before we end, I would also like to thank His Majesty the custodian of the two holy mosques, King Abdullah bin Abdul Aziz Al Saud, the sponsor of this prestigious forum. And I would like also to thank His Highness Prince Saud bin Abdullah bin Thanayan, the chairman of the Royal Commission of Jubail and Yanbu. And thank you for all those who participate in having our successful forum. Special thanks to all of our partners and investors and participators in the speeches and the exhibition we have those 2 days. However, with them, this forum is only a starting point. We believe that we still have lots of steps to take, and I would like to meet and work with all of you in the coming future to partner in our efforts for a mutually beneficial long relationship in the Royal Commission cities. Thank you very much.
Thank you indeed, our valued guests. With this, we come to an end to our event. Thank you for coming, and please make sure to join us for the tour around Yanbu and for the Flowers Festival, which buses will take you from here at 3:20 and will get you back to your hotels. And please return the simultaneous interpretation headsets. If you have any in your hotel rooms, please give them to any BME representatives. Thank you very much.